Good morning to you and welcome to your morning newscast on Kaieteur Radio 99.1 and 99.5 FM. Of course, you've just listened to the weekend review whereby we recap all the top stories we'd have carried over the past week. It is time for your Sunday, April 3rd newscast, and my name is Joshua Van Slegman, and I say thank you for joining us. With the monetization of its 10 billion barrels of oil equivalent resources, Guyana's leaders hope to raise the standard of living of its people, cut the nation's debt, and have significant deposit made into the Natural Resources Fund. But the unfortunate reality that confronts the new oil-producing state is that it is in a weak position to accomplish these goals. This is according to Tom Zanzolo and Gerard Kraft, two financial and energy advisors attached to the Institute for Energy Economics and Financial Analysis. To cement their argument, Zanzolo and Kraft urge all Guyanese authorities to consider the case of Angola, which has hosted world oil developers for the last 25 years and is a cautionary tale of nations hoping to cash in oil and gas development, but noted that the country produced approximately 1.4 million barrels per day last year, down from a peak of 1.9 billion barrels per day. Given its vast resources, the advisors highlighted that Angola ranked 15th in the world of top oil producers, while adding that the president is trying to increase production with a new round of offers to the international oil community. Despite its resources, however, the two advisors said that for decades of oil production have created neither prosperity nor fiscal stability for Angola. At the end of 2020, for example, they pointed out that the nation's debt stood at approximately $76 billion. ExxonMobil's subsidiary, Esso, is arguing strongly that the government of Ghana has a right to modify the law in favor of the contractual agreement, which provides the company with a broad tax waivers. This contention is raised in the company's affidavit submitted to the court this past week, in opposition to the case filed by Kaieteur News publisher Glenn Lau over the government's decision to grant Exxon and its subsidiary expense tax exemptions. EEPGL was recently added as a respondent to the case. According to the court document signed by President of ExxonMobil Guyana, Alastair Routledge, Esso holds the view that the arguments made between the oil company and the government of Ghana are based on a simple contractual agreement. A thief comes when one least expects it. In like manner was the environmental permit issued for ExxonMobil's fourth project, the Yellowtail development. Guyana's Environmental Protection Agency issued an environmental permit for the Yellowtail development on March 30th, along with a public notice with a copy of the revised Environmental Impact Assessment document 2 days later. April 1, 2022, and ExxonMobil plans to extract up to 250,000 barrels of oil per day in the Stabroek block and plans to kickstart production in late 2025 or early 2026. The environmental impact assessment process for Yellowtail was severely criticized for its deficiencies. Neither the EPA nor ExxonMobil ever disclosed the terms of reference for the study the entire statutory 6-day period that the EIA study was available for public scrutiny and comment. The EIA study was conducted by Exxon's consultant, the Environmental Resource Management, ERM. Many organizations and environmentalists in Guyana and the Caribbean submitted written objections to the Environmental Assessment Board on gross deficiencies that were in the study, which were hurriedly cobbled together and mere 2 months after the EPA had issued the terms of reference for the study. Get the full details in today's Kaieteur News. Former head of the local Environmental Protection Agency, Dr. Vincent Adams, has warned that Ghana must safeguard itself against what he described as quote-unquote watered-down language that could possibly weaken the country's abilities to hold oil companies operating in the Stabroek block from fully accepting their responsibilities in the unfortunate event of an oil spill or other negative environmental occurrences. Dr. Adams was referring directly to the recently granted EPA environmental permit to ExxonMobil's subsidiary, Esso Exploration and Production Ghana Limited, EEPGL, which clears the company for operation at its Yellowtail well set for production startup in about 2 years. Adam has pointed to language that he is convinced could diminish the country's legal powers to ensure ExxonMobil and its subsidiary adhere to their responsibility. The former EPA boss said that based on his perusal of the recently granted environmental permit and recent utterances by ExxonMobil's president Alastair Rutledge on the matter of legitimate costs, government needs to flesh out the details behind what is meant by legitimate costs and who determines what legitimate cost is. Meanwhile, at a simple ceremony on Friday, the Ministry of Public Works awarded approximately $3.19 billion in contracts to several contractors to execute the upgrade of 32 hinterland bridges to international standards, stretching from Kurukapari to Letham. The signing of the contract, which occurred at the ministry's Kingston office, saw out of 36 contractors who places bid at the National Procurement and Tender Administration Board office, 6 being contracted to do the job. The projects have been divided into 6 lots and would see places like Irokorama, Payara, Suruma, Anai, among others, where the bridges will be built. And this is your main newscast on Kaieteur Radio 99.1 and 99.5 FM. And my name is Josh Evans Lekman, finally at this time. The government of Guyana has boosted the oil sector, which has experienced an increase in oil production from 120,000 barrels of oil per day to 340,000, and is poised to drive Guyana's growth to historic levels. In fact, Senior Minister within the Office of the President with responsibility for finance, Dr. Ashni Singh, had disclosed during the reading of this year's $552.9 billion national budget that Guyana real gross domestic product is projected to grow by 47.5%. It is a level of performance no other country in the world is forecast to achieve in 2022. While Guyana should feel justifiably proud of the fact that their country's GDP has been growing the fastest and will continue to do so, Terence Yip, an economist, says citizens must not get carried away just by the sheer size of such figures, as they, in isolation, are not accurate reflection of the country's well-being and, more importantly, the well-being of citizens. Yip explained that GDP tends to spike for countries which are starting out with a low GDP base, blessed with high-value natural resources like copper and oil, and chose to do rapid spending or investment with the earnings made. Get the full details in today's Kaieteur News. And with that, we've come to the end of your main newscast right here on Kaieteur Radio 99.1 and 99.5 FM. Remind you that you can get the full details of these stories and much more by picking up a copy of the Kaieteur News at the newsstand near you, or head across to our website at kaieteurnewsonline.com. I am Josh Evans Lekman. Thank you for joining us, and have a great remainder of your Sunday morning.